Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Today is going to be one of those videos where I really just have to get something off of my chest. So today's topic is this. I can't afford to homeschool. We're going to talk a little bit about priorities today. With everything going on in the world today, whether it comes down to what rhymes with vaccines or with the coronavirus or just with the craziness that is going on in the public school system, whether it would be, curriculum or drag queen story hour or bullying or teacher predators, there are more and more and more people who are wanting to consider homeschooling. And that's with very good reason. There are many good reasons that you should consider homeschooling. One of the most common excuses, and yes, I'm going to call it an excuse for today, that people use when they make the decision to continue to put their children into that situation is that they say, I can't afford to homeschool. I get it. There are some people who truly and honestly cannot afford to homeschool. And I'm thinking specifically of like single parents. That would definitely be a really difficult situation to homeschool in. Now, I'm not going to say that people never do it. There are a lot of single homeschooling parents out there, but I can definitely see how that would be a problem. What I have been seeing though, and this is usually just comments on, other videos or blog posts or Twitter that have to do with homeschooling, is they just don't want to give up their second income to homeschool. And they say, I could never afford to homeschool because my wife would have to quit her full-time job. And the thing is that for the most part, people who say these things, they really could just do without and work on one income. The problem is that people really have a hard time distinguishing between wants and needs. And I really have to say that as a mother of 11 who, I make a little tiny bit of side money to help my husband out, but for the most part, he is our primary income. So when I hear people who have, just a couple of kids who say that they could never afford to homeschool because their wife would have to quit work, I'm going to admit and say that it irritates me a little bit because my husband and I sacrifice a lot. And it's not just our family. There are a lot of other homeschooling families out there who do sacrifice for their children, who do without quite a bit because they are putting their children first. And that is where I am really seeing a disconnect with a lot of these families. Because when they are seeing that, or when they're saying that they could never afford to live on one income, here's the problem. If you are trying to live on one income and continue in the lifestyle that you are living now, you're right. You're not going to be able to live like that. But the problem is that people don't want to take stock of the things that they are doing in their lives that aren't necessities that they are kind of looking at as necessities. And truly, this is a first world problem. A lot of things that people think that they absolutely need, they don't. The problem is that they're not in any way up for juggling their lifestyle or maybe taking some things out that they might particularly enjoy, but that they don't need in order to keep their children at the top of the priority list. And really, that is where kids need to be. You don't need a second car. You don't need a brand new car and car payments. Work with one car. We do. Again, 8 kids in the house. We work with one car. And you don't need to have car payments. Buy a good used car that you can pay for all at one time. You don't need to have the best of everything. You don't need to have all the latest gadgets. You don't need to eat out every week or every other day or even every month. These are all things that you can easily cut out of your life in order to sacrifice for your child. You don't need to have all the latest clothing. You don't need to go on fancy vacations, whether it would be once a year, twice a year, however many times that you decide to go. There really comes a time in your life that you need to become an adult, and you need to think to yourself, what is more important, the well-being of my child or the things that I possess? Your children are your legacy. Aren't they worth the sacrifice? Aren't they worth giving up in order to give them a better life, in order to take them out of an institution that is wholly not good for them and that is going to steer them down a really bad path? Or on the other hand, if you are someone who chooses not to, we'll just say, use vaccines on your child, are you going to just give up and say, well, we can't afford to homeschool, so we're just going to have to do it? What is more important? The things that you have, your possessions, those luxuries that you have gotten so used to that you can't even fathom living without them, or the child who is sitting next to you, looking up at you, trusting you with their lives. It's about time that people start understanding that the things that you have in this life will only last here. You can't take them with you. But the way that you raise your child, that is going to continue on, because it is going to reflect in how they raise their child and how that person raises their child. And it's going to continue down through the generations. So honestly, I just want to say, don't just use the excuse that you can't afford to homeschool flippantly, because there are a lot of families out there who sacrifice and who do without a lot because we know that it's what our children need. If you truly want to homeschool, you will find a way to do it. But don't just give these pat answers to kind of get yourself off the hook, because it just doesn't cut it. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram because YouTube disabled my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.